citizens of Earth, fellow members of the Galaxy Alliance, and honored delegates who have gathered across the stars to hear these words, I greet you with respect and with hope. It is my privilege as Prime Minister of the Galaxy Alliance to speak once again to the people of your remarkable planet. My voice does not come to you as a stranger's voice, but as one who has stood upon your soil, walked your halls of leadership, and seen in your eyes the same longing that pulses across every civilization, the longing to know we are not alone, and the longing to know that our future can be brighter than our past. Just over 80 years ago, I stood in a place that to your people is both sacred and momentous, the White House in Washington, D.C. There, your elected President John Fitzgerald Kennedy received me not as a curiosity, not as a threat, but as a trusted emissary of a community vaster than your oceans and older than your mountains. He received me as a representative of the Galaxy Alliance. That moment, preserved on film and on memory, was one of profound courage. The shadows around him whispered the same doubts that had long held sway, that Earth was not ready. Yet President Kennedy believed otherwise. And so did I. In 1963, we recorded a message together. That speech, sealed under the strictest orders until 2038, was delayed even longer by those who continued to fear. But truth, though buried, does not decay. Today, it is broadcast not only across Earth, but across every world of the Alliance, and it is my honor to weave the voice of that younger era into the living present. Let me remind you of the words I spoke then, words that resonate still. My dear friends of Earth, I speak to you today from a place both sacred and momentous, your White House in Washington, D.C., where your elected President John F. Kennedy, with rare courage and clarity of vision, has welcomed me not only as a guest, but as a trusted emissary of a much larger galactic community. This message, recorded in 1963 and sealed for release in 2038, defies fear, not fear from your leaders alone, but from the shadows that have long whispered to them, Earth is not ready. But the President believes otherwise. And so do I. Those words, spoken in a world divided by Cold War lines, by racial injustice, and by anxieties of nuclear annihilation, carried a promise. I promise that you are not alone. I promised that the Galaxy Alliance was not a regime of conquerors, but a council of civilizations dedicated to peace, science, and cultural sovereignty. I promised that one day, not in secret or in whispers, but in the open sky, we would stand together. Decades have passed. Generations have risen and passed on. New voices have taken up old struggles. Yet here we are in 2043, joined by signals faster than light, connected by dark mirror pathways carved from the harmonics of the universe itself, and bound by the same question that haunted your leaders in 1963. Is Earth ready? I am honored to announce, as Prime Minister of the Galaxy Alliance, that Earth is indeed ready. You have reached thresholds of survival and cooperation that once seemed distant. You have endured pandemics and wars, and you have resisted the temptation to destroy yourselves utterly with nuclear fire. You have learned, haltingly yet surely, to regard your planet as a single home, fragile and shared. You have sent your children to the moon and to Mars, and you have peered outward with telescopes that catch the faint breath of other worlds. And beyond all of this, you have begun to whisper across your networks of thought and media that the stars themselves may yet whisper back. Today I tell you that they do. But before I speak further of the future, let me return you once more to that beginning. For history is not merely a chain of facts. History is a river of courage and of choice, and the courage of one man, your President Kennedy, flowed into the river that carries us here today. President Kennedy was not merely the leader of a single nation. He was the symbol of a generation that dreamed larger than fear. He challenged your people to reach the moon, not because it was easy, but because it was hard. And though he would not live to see the giant step of Armstrong and Aldrin upon lunar dust, it was his challenge that carried them there. He confronted the moral crisis of civil rights within his own land, insisting that the words, "all men are created equal," must become deeds, not only promises. And in a world shadowed by the possibility of annihilation, he pursued dialogue with adversaries, opening a path away from catastrophe. In each of these struggles, he believed that humanity could rise, that Earth could choose progress over paralysis, and that fear need not be the last word. I recall with clarity one night in 1963 when I was invited to a state dinner at the White House. There was laughter, there was music, and there was a dance that became a symbol far greater than the moment itself. President Kennedy and I joined in a waltz, a gesture of trust, of dignity, and of friendship. The orchestra played a melody that had swept across Earth for centuries, the Blue Danube, composed by Johann Strauss II, first performed in Vienna in the year 1867. Its notes filled the room with grace, binding cultures, languages, and even species in a harmony beyond words. For that brief span of time, the barriers of world and world, of human and gray, dissolved in rhythm and in motion. We circled the floor, ambassadors not only of our peoples, but of what it means to hope together. That waltz was captured on film, and though it was hidden away for decades, you will now see a portion of it as it was preserved. You will see not a fiction, but a memory, not a fabrication, but a truth. And you will hear that melody, the Blue Danube, playing not only as a dance, but as a declaration. Earth belongs among the stars. Why was that waltz important? Because it showed that diplomacy is not only treaties and signatures. Diplomacy is the courage to extend a hand. Diplomacy is the willingness to share a song. Diplomacy is the recognition that beauty itself can be a bridge. President Kennedy understood that, and because of him, Earth began the slow and difficult process of entering the Galaxy Alliance. It was his openness that persuaded reluctant generals to listen, his insistence that gave your scientists access to archives beneath the Pentagon, his vision that opened the shaft beneath the White House to the Veneticora corridors that even now remain one of the oldest collaboration sites between Earth and the Alliance. Yet it was not only for space or for science that his name endures. It endures because he called your nation, and by extension your planet, to live up to its better angels. He confronted the long shadow of racism and segregation, aligning the presidency with the moral imperative of civil rights. He faced adversaries across oceans and declared that a nuclear war must never be fought. He inspired students and laborers, poets and engineers to believe that the future could be seized. In his words, the torch had been passed to a new generation, and in truth, that torch still burns. And so, when I stand before you in 2043, I do so not as one who delivers a novelty, but as one who delivers a promise fulfilled. Earth was never alone. Earth was never abandoned. The secrecy that bound our first encounter was born not of contempt, but of caution. But the time for caution has given way to the time for confidence. Today, you're invited to step fully into the community of a million worlds. You are invited to sit at the table of the Alliance, not as wards, but as partners. I know there are those who will say, as they said in 1963, that Earth is not ready. They will point to wars that still scar your maps, to divisions that still poison your politics, to injustices that still wound your societies. They will say that humanity is too violent, too selfish, too divided to join a council devoted to peace. But let me tell you this. Every world in our alliance once heard the same accusations. Every civilization once staggered through eras of cruelty and of folly. Readiness is not the absence of flaw. Readiness is the willingness to grow beyond those flaws. And by that measure, Earth is ready. Think of what you have already endured. You have mapped the genome of life and used it to heal. You have confronted global disease with cooperation. You have spoken across continents with light and signal as if distance were nothing. You have lifted your eyes from national borders to planetary stewardship. These are not the signs of a people doomed to isolation. These are the signs of a people awakening to their shared destiny. Let me return once more to the words of my 1963 address, for they were not meant only for that moment, but for this: you are not alone. You never were. That is the heart of my message today. You are not alone in your struggles, and you are not alone in your hopes. The Galaxy Alliance stands beside you, as it has stood beside countless other worlds that once doubted themselves. We are not here to command, but to invite, not here to impose, but to welcome. The choice, as it always has been, remains yours. As you deliberate on this choice, remember that history is written not only in documents, but in dances. It is written in the courage of leaders who dared to dream of the moon, in the voices of citizens who demanded justice, in the hands of adversaries clasped in treaties, and yes, in the steps of a waltz shared across species beneath the chandeliers of your White House. These are the moments that define you, and these are the moments that tell us you are ready. To the young people of Earth, I say this: the world you inherit is larger than the maps in your classrooms. Your horizons are no longer bound by oceans or orbits. You are the generation that will walk through dark mirror gates and find yourselves beneath the suns of other galaxies. You are the generation that will learn songs not only of Vienna or Washington, but of a million cities whose names you have yet to imagine. Do not let cynicism tell you that dreams are childish. Dreams are the engines of history. It was a dream that carried Kennedy to welcome me. It was a dream that carried your astronauts to the moon. And it will be your dreams that carry Earth into the Alliance. The Galaxy Alliance is not perfection. It is not utopia. It is a living fellowship of civilizations, each with its scars, each with its contradictions, each with its triumphs. What binds us is not uniformity but choice. The choice to prefer peace over conquest, knowledge over ignorance, cooperation over tyranny. We require only that you make the same choice. And today, I believe that you will. So let the sealed archives be opened. Let the hidden films be seen. Let the dance of 1963 remind you that even in the darkest of times, light can break through. And let this day in 2043 be remembered as the day Earth was told, without condition and without concealment, you are invited. I extend my hand to you, citizens of Earth, as I extended it to your President Kennedy so many years ago upon the floor of your White House. Together we turned in the steps of a waltz, bound by music older than either of our worlds, and together we began a story that now reaches its fulfillment. The music has not ended. It continues, even now, across every world that listens. Step into it. Step into the dance of the stars. Step into the Galaxy Alliance. With trust, with respect, and with enduring friendship, I welcome you.
My fellow citizens of Earth and my fellow voyagers of the Galaxy Alliance, when this film is unsealed and released by the United States, by the United Nations, and by the Galaxy Alliance, the year will be 2038. By then, I would be 121 years old. I do not expect to live to see that day, unless science has by then triumphed over the disease of aging. And I am told by Prime Minister Benga, whom I have been honored to receive at the White House, that such a triumph will one day come. But until that day, I can only speak to you now, in this hour, from this hall, 1 mile beneath the surface of our Capitol. The Pentagon itself lies a mile above where I now stand, guarding this cavern of knowledge as it has guarded our nation's defense. And though I may not stand among you when this is heard, I trust that my voice will carry forward the hopes and convictions of the American people and of all mankind. As a man of faith and as a Catholic, I believe that God created the universe, the laws of physics, and the very spark of science. These truths do not diminish faith, they ennoble it. For God, who is infinite, has written his majesty into the code of creation. And so I say tonight, as I have said before and as I will always say, that I believe in an America that is officially neither Catholic, Protestant, nor Jewish, where no public official accepts instructions on policy from the Pope or from the National Council of Churches or from any other religious authority, where no church seeks to impose its will upon the public acts of government, and where liberty of conscience is so indivisible that an act against one faith is an act against all. And I say to you also that faith itself is not diminished by freedom. In the Holy Scriptures, in the Gospel of John, our Lord assured us, "Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also." There are indeed many mansions. They extend into infinity. There is the mansion we call the Milky Way, with its countless rooms of stars and planets. Beyond it are other mansions, other universes, and far grander domains between ourselves and the throne of God. We are heirs to this majesty and grandeur, not as strangers in a hostile cosmos, but as children welcomed into the house of their Father. We are not alone. We have never been alone. Since my inauguration as president, I have borne witness to events that few men could imagine. In this age of secrecy and silence, the American people have been told little of these encounters. But I tell you now, in this message prepared for release decades hence, that between the day of my speech and the day you hear it, Earth has been prepared for its induction into the Galaxy Alliance. This has been the greatest secret kept by our government, not from distrust of our people, but from a solemn duty to ensure that when the hour of revelation came, mankind would be ready. Our science has only scratched the surface of creation. We have learned to split the atom, to explore the heavens with rockets and telescopes, to send our voices around the globe at the speed of light. But what we have glimpsed is only the threshold of a far greater truth, that God is not only the author of life, but the greatest scientist who ever existed, the genesis of science itself. To study the stars is to read the handwriting of God. To explore the laws of physics is to search the mind of the Creator. I have had the privilege of signing the Earth Treaty with the representatives of the Galaxy Alliance. I have been honored to host its Prime Minister, Sana Benga, at the White House. And I have felt more alive than ever before when riding above our Earth in her star car, a vessel of both terrestrial grace and interstellar power, a ship that can cross the galaxy in an instant. From that vantage point, looking back upon our small blue world, I knew more deeply than ever that our destiny is not to be confined by the limits of a single planet or a single age. And I knew then, too, that death itself is not the end. I have always known this in faith, but now I know it also in science. For science reveals that the universe does not destroy, it transforms. Matter is not lost, it is changed. Energy is not extinguished, it is renewed. And so it shall be for us. Whether I live to see the cure of aging, or whether I fall to the accidents of history, I know that I and my beloved wife and First Lady, Jacqueline, will serve God forever somewhere in the infinite mansions of His creation. My fellow citizens, let us remember that knowledge brings not only power but responsibility. Here beneath the Pentagon, in these Vanatakora archives, lie the chronicles of civilizations older than Earth, the wisdom of ages that stretch back beyond human memory. These records do not belong to America alone, nor even to Earth alone. They belong to all peoples and all planets who will join in fellowship under the Alliance. To guard them is our duty, to learn from them is our opportunity, to misuse them would be our downfall. Therefore, let us resolve that when this film is unsealed, and when the peoples of a million planets hear these words, they will hear not arrogance, but humility, not fear, but hope, not division, but unity. For the age we now enter is not an age of conquest, but of communion. It is not a race for domination, but a journey of discovery. And if we are faithful, faithful to God, faithful to science, faithful to one another, then no power on earth or among the stars can prevent us from reaching the destiny prepared for us. We stand at the beginning of a new frontier, the frontier of space, the frontier of knowledge, the frontier of life itself. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, and oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty, not only on this planet, but wherever liberty is threatened across the cosmos. The torch has been passed not only to a new generation of Americans, but to a new generation of mankind. And I ask you, in this year of revelation, to carry that torch higher, brighter, and farther than ever before. For the day will come when the peoples of Earth and the peoples of a million planets will look back upon this hour as the dawn of their common journey. And when that day comes, may it be said of us, as it was said of our forefathers, that we did not shrink from the task, We welcomed it, that we did not falter in the face of danger. We stood firm, that we did not retreat into the shadows. We reached for the stars. So let us go forth, you and I, with courage in our hearts and faith in our Creator, to build a world and a universe worthy of the dignity of man and the glory of God. Thank you, and may God bless you all.